teams that we got going on right here, right now in today's series. We are streaming for you guys No Fear Wolves versus Degenerates reformed in our very first series of Mid League, and it's going to be an extremely exciting matchup between these two teams here. In particular, the rising team of Degenerates reformed are reigning Light League champions. So when we say rising, we mean literally rising from Light League to Mid League here.
Oh yes, they literally did win last season in Light League, so like, they're here to take another victory, but this time in Mid League.
And it's going to be exciting to see how these two teams are going to be clashing up against each other. We have the No Fear Wolves as a mainstay coming in, and they're going to be facing off against the Light League champions here. I'm really curious to see how these two teams are going to clash up in terms of play styles, though, because we do have a lot of AD carries that are coming into this league that are feeling pretty confident about themselves.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems like every team is rooting for their AD carry. Come on, we're praying for our bot lane. But every team can't play strong side bot. That's not how it works. Someone's got to put their faith in their top laners too.
They got to put some faith in the top laners, and we've had a lot of changes recently going on to the top lane meta, to the jungle meta, and to the bottom lane meta. I'm going to be super curious as well to see how these teams are playing around the new jungle champions on top of playing around their bottom lane, because we still have the hyper scaling pick of Udyr that's very popular right now. But when talking to some of these teams earlier this week, a lot of them mentioned that Hecarim has been relatively nerfed out of the current meta, and I'm really curious, what do you think is going to be kind of the new adaptation of the jungle, and where these teams going to be able to play with the new jungle picks that we might be expecting?
I'm definitely looking to see some Morgana jungle today. I mean, she's a really solid triple flex. You can put her support, you can put her mid, and then she's really strong in the jungle right now, despite her being nerfed last patch. I think Diana jungle and Darius jungle too, they just buffed. They have some very fast clears. Diana's, of course, an assassin that you can still flex mid. It's like, they've put so many flex picks into the jungle at this point that it's like, well, you might as well B1 one of them, right? Because you don't even have to put it in jungle in B1.
I'm really curious to see if we can see a multi-flex as well. Maybe the Diana and the Darius coming out in one single game, so you never know exactly which one's going into the jungle, which one's going to be a solo laner. But hopefully these teams are going to show us exactly what they have planned as we are hopping into the pick and ban here. Kha'Zix is going to be hovered right off the bat from No Fear Wolves. I wonder why they prioritize this champion. It hasn't exactly been in the current meta. It must be something that they just don't particularly want to play against here. And with that, it will be banned out alongside the Rumble from Degenerates Reformed.
Yes, of course, with LS's tier list released yesterday, he believes Rumble is a very OP jungler. And I mean, Rumble in the jungle is just a class, and you don't want to go against that. You face check a bush, you just die. There's no getting to look at the bush.
Yeah. And it's insanely strong because of the passive buffs that he was able to receive recently. The increased attack speed whenever he hits that overheat charge means that he's going to be dealing so much extra damage. I think they also increased the amount of magic damage he does on hit, and with a Morgana being banned out here by Degenerates Reformed, they are really trying to take away some of these AP junglers away from No Fear Wolves, which means that they're afraid of the ganking patterns that No Fear Wolves is going to have for themselves. Kog'Maw and Thresh are going to be banned away as the final two picks here from No Fear Wolves, and Degenerates Reformed will round out the rest of their bans with Seraphine. Just a classic ban in my case. I personally hate that champion. I ban it out in every single one of my ranked games.
Yeah, that champion is definitely very annoying to play against. But I mean, she's not as good as she was a few weeks ago. They nerfed Moonstone directly for Seraphine, and then they also nerfed Moonstone on the next patch for every support. So she's still with Shirelia's, right? But I mean, as a champion, she was not as strong as she was. And then we have the Tristana picked first.
Tristana's a great flex pick here. I'm personally not sure where I land on Tristana as a first pick, though. I think that prioritizing the jungle and making sure you get the champion that you want to play there is going to be a bigger flex for No Fear Wolves, especially considering that two junglers have been banned against them. Maybe picking up the Diana right off the bat, or even hovering a Darius, something that you can flex in the jungle as well as the solo lanes is a better priority, because Tristana does open up for the Lulu pick to come in here. While it's not necessarily going to be direct, if the Tristana does go mid, Tristana can also be punished by a lot of assassins in the mid lane. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this particular flex pick. On the other side though, Lulu and Volibear have been locked in by Degenerates Reformed, and I'm curious to see just all across the board flex picks from every team.
Yeah, I mean, Lulu herself is also a triple flex. She can go support. She can go top lane, as very popular in pro play, and then she can even go mid lane in certain matchups as well against assassins. But I mean, if you're expecting it to be a Tristana mid lane, Tristana's not really the assassin that you want to be picking Lulu mid into, so it is most likely not going to be a Lulu mid. And then, of course, Volibear is also a classic flex. You could put him top, you could put him jungle. In very rare instances, you could put him mid too if you really want to.
It's a flex game everywhere. Everything's a flex. I mean, if we're going based off of the LS tier list as well, we can talk about how he believes Kindred top lane is like S tier or A tier to him. I don't personally believe it, because you're not going to be able to get the stacks, but he also does believe that Kindred in the jungle is going to be a huge priority here. Something that I think is important to mention is that the current state of the jungle is still very farm focused, and with the super tanks in Udyr, in Hecarim, and even in Volibear to some degree getting nerfs from the chem tank, from the Dead Man's Plate nerfs, other farming junglers like the Kindred have been showing up a little bit more prevalent. So I'm curious to see double AD carry. I hope that Tristana does not go into the mid lane because of the double AD carry comp that is already being ran by No Fear Wolves, unless they're willing to play a mage in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I definitely think by showing that they are playing an AD jungler like Kindred, they're most likely going to be putting Tristana in the bot lane with Nautilus, which, I mean, that is a very strong 2v2 lane, especially into what I can only assume is going to be a Lulu Vayne bot lane. Like that Lulu Vayne, you got no hard CC compared to a Nautilus, so you're not going to win the early 2v2, but late game's another story.
Late game has kind of been the name of the game for a lot of AD carries recently, though. They haven't really felt the ability to be able to play for early. That's why we see a lot of the Jinx. We see a lot of the Tristana, even Kai'Sa, a scaling pick that has potential to be aggressive early. About the only hyper early game carry that I can think of that's still prevalent in the meta is Jhin, who likes to be a little bit more of a lane bully. Tristana can lane bully as well, but everyone picks her more for the scaling options. We've blown through the rest of the bans, though, as Yorick Shen being taken off the board from No Fear, No Wolves, and Nar Yone being taken off the board from Degenerates Reform. So it looks like a lot of top lane focus coming in here. And even despite all these top lane bans coming in, Degenerate Reforms are saving that pick for last year as they lock in the Victor blind and saving counter pick for top lane.
Yeah, they do definitely want to preserve the flex of Volibear for as long as they possibly can. And I mean, banning out Yone Kindred, I think Yone Kindred is probably pretty strong, but I mean, their ults kind of clash against each other a little bit.
Yone Kindred would be an interesting combination. I'm curious how those two would interact. Biggest thing is that Yone gathers everybody to the last location he was at. So if you throw this all into a Kindred ult, it would be difficult for the Yone to be played by Degenerates Reform, because Kindred could easily just save all of her teammates there. It would, however, gather everyone up and leave them in one spot for the rest of Degenerates Reform dogpile, but it's super hard to speculate what happens in these late game team fights. What we can speculate on, though, is we're going to have this Azir locked in from No Fear Wolves, another scaling mid to match this Victor. I personally believe that Victor tends to win these. He just has better wave clear in the early game and more early team fight ability to impact with the Chaos Storm. It really takes a couple of items for Azir to be able to start playing the game, and has to be able to place those Shurima shuffles in the correct place in order to defend himself or shuffle the right people into his team here. As the last pick coming in here, Ornn from No Fear Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, when you put a Victor and an Azir in the mid lane, they're both just control mages, so it's more of just going to be a skill matchup of who hits the right abilities level 6, who doesn't, who's going to mess up less in the late game team fights, and that's going to be who scales more. And then we've got the last pick, Urgot, as well, revealing that it is going to be a Volibear jungle.
Man, the new meta is always super exciting to see. Without for sure here, but it's still just a really big question of, are we back? Do we have sound?
What?
Ooh, we're back. All right, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You can finally hear us here. So,
Hello.
it's not a first stream of the week for Mid League here, unless there's a little bit of scuffing going on. But it is how it is. We were just breaking down these team comps for you guys and letting you know our opinions on the fact that both of these teams super late game compositions.
Yes, and I'm not entirely sure how much you heard and didn't hear, but if either team is able to find a lead early on, then they're going to find their late game spikes even quicker than the other team. So these late game fights could be happening around the 20-25 minute mark, depending on how dragons go, how the Baron is taken, how all the early heralds go, everything like that.
And something I want to put an emphasis on is that with all of the scaling going on in this game, it means that whichever one of these teams is able to find an early lead is really going to propel themselves closer to that victory. I'm going to be watching the bottom lane in particular this game. I know we talked about it so much during the pre-show segment that look at the AD carries, look at these star players that are coming in the bottom lane and how they're going to be able to impact the map. But the biggest thing for me is looking at this Nautilus Tristana hyper aggressive, hyper engaged bottom lane versus something as passive as the Lulu and Vayne.
I mean, the Lulu Vayne, you don't have any hard to see for yourself early on. You're just going to have to hope that there's a Volibear there to save you from if either one of them missteps and is hit by a hook. Because early on, Tristana and Nautilus, they are a very punishing lane if you misstep at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you step up just a little too far, especially on a short range AD carry like Vayne, it is going to mean a hook. It is going to mean the depth charge. It is going to mean an auto attack to get stunned. It is so difficult for this lane to be able to play hyper aggressive. However, there is room for Degenerates Reform to try and win these bot lane skirmishes. If we look towards the Lulu to polymorph the Tristana, we might see a little bit of a blunder. But ladies and gentlemen, we got a few minutes before we get into this game. Do not go anywhere. It should be an exciting match. Hopefully we get to see a lot of bloodiness in this first game. And Mac Dewey and Gunshot are going to be the two to bring you through this one in just a couple of minutes. Do not go anywhere. Do not touch that browser. We'll see you guys back here real soon.
Hello, Summoners. Welcome onto the Rift for the start of season number 3 for the XLNC Mid-League. Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting ourselves off with an absolutely fantastic matchup. No Fear Wolves are taking on Degenerates Reformed. Hopefully, Dory behind the scenes can make the league screen full screen. That would be ideal. There we go. Look at the producer absolutely smurfing behind the scenes. Gunjin, Icarus was talking during the analyst desk segment about how this bot lane is the lane to watch. What are your thoughts on Epic Fail Guy and Joshbox taking on Fox Zero and Flute Loops?
So obviously, Epic Fail Guy does have pedigree in this league. Epic Fail Guy, being the all-pro second AD carry from last season, was kind of in that competition with Kiba, Beastlands as one of the top 3 AD carries, kind of the premier AD carry for just kind of solo carrying the game. And so I'm excited to see what he wants to do. And a lot of things that he's mentioned this season was the aggression. He wants to be a lot more aggressive in the early game. And I think it kind of is for what the meta is kind of bringing, with a lot of this early game dragon stacking being really important and snowball comps kind of taking over. Obviously, we do have some late game oriented team comps, because whenever you see Ornn, it's screaming, let's go to 35 minutes and hope we win this game. In terms of the bot lane itself, though, Fox Zero and Flute Loops versus Epic and Joshbox, it is the classic engage versus counter engage. And again, there's always that myth. Everyone in League of Legends has that idea that Vayne is this late game dainty AD carry that can't do anything, and she's kind of just hoping that you let her get to that 25-minute mark with 2 items. Right. But Vayne Lulu is a different beast in itself. Any AD carry main can tell you that. For any time you've ever been kind of solo queue AD carry and you go against this dual lane, you're like, oh god, Vayne Lulu, don't get beaten by this top lane fight. Nothing's gonna happen. But back to the bot lane. Vayne Lulu, they have a lot of kill pressure early, and it's surprising to say that, but with this Nautilus Tristana bot lane, if the engage isn't perfect, if you can't jump in at the exact time when the hook lands and deal a lot of that damage, that counter damage is so strong from the Vayne Lulu because they just run you down. The polymorph instantly kind of negates one of the sources of damage, and you just get chipped and chipped and chipped, and you feel even worse because you're like, wait, I'm supposed to beat this lane. And there's just that inevitability where you're like, oh, Vayne hit 2 items. Lulu has Ardent Sensor. Oh god. And it's not as dainty as you think it would be. You think two of these dainties are like, oh low Lulu, but this bot lane can do a lot of punch and pack a lot of punch in the early game. So be on the lookout, because I know Icarus mentioned that this game is going to go late, but this could get turned really early, really quickly.
Something that I love seeing from Fox Zero and Flute Loops, they're not getting caught by any level 2 shenanigans going on. And as the Scuttle Crabs are about to spawn, we got to look at Peekaboo crossing his fingers, praying to the gods that the mark is going to be on this bottom side Scuttle. Because right now, we see Epic and Joshbox controlling the bot lane, Cute Raichu doing a solid job in the mid lane. And what do you know? The prayers have been answered. Peekaboo's going to be thankful. We'll have to see, though, Gunjin. Hot S'mores does have the level advantage, and he might try to book it down bot.
Yeah, prayers up to Mark Merrill. He answered our prayers, and the bot lane Scuttle is on his side. I do want to talk about that top lane and that jungle matchup. We did end up seeing, obviously, the Tristana be the first pick, and the counter was that Lulu Volibear. One thing that I'm surprised about is that, I thought that was
this one.
Oh, that hook looked. Yeah, that was pixel close, but they ended up picking the volley in the first round. And again, Volibear is such a strong pick. He kind of dominates the jungle and farms it so quickly. My big problem is that this Kindred pick can do a lot of work, a lot of kite potential on this Kindred. And I expected Degenerates Reformed to kind of pick some stronger laners so they could kind of have that invade threat into the jungle of Peekaboo. Kind of be like, we're not going to let you scale up. We're not going to let you get all these marks, get all of these free early game. We're going to try to do something for you. But they end up picking the Urgot, which obviously does kind of have a stronger lane into the Ornn. But obviously we're seeing in the early game, every single lane is getting pushed in for the side of Degenerates Reformed, and it feels like Kindred is just running around farming marks, farming gold, and she just wants to stay as even as possible in the early game, and this is completely perfect for the side of No Fear Wolves. But there's going to be a gank top side.
Skiz in a little bit of trouble, but Adderall not really in a position to help out here. It's going to be a 1v1 between the Ram and the Bear. Hotsmore is going to take his leave out of the top lane. Meanwhile, Josh looking for the hook. That's going to connect onto Flute Loops. The polymorph coming through. Epic Fail Guy going to get sent way on back. Ganks and action all over the Rift, but we see in the top lane, Gunjin, Adderall still low, out of mana. Skiz looking for the flag. Skiz in the top lane. Welcome to the kingdom. he gets first blood to start off the season.
Is sending out the welcome to mid-league postcards early for Adderall. You don't expect the Ornn level 5 solo kill, but here we are, and Skiz used to be a mid laner and a jungler and honestly anything for the side of No Fear Wolves. So this guy, don't think of him just as a tank player. Some players get that role of just being, oh, he's going to play passive and scale. Skiz said, no, we're going for the kill, and they get the 1v1. What a play by Skiz, and it feels like, obviously, right now, you're like, that's not that bad. It's just one kill. But look at the side of Peekaboo. He is just free farming. You never want to let a Kindred just free scale, get her gold, get her marks. But right now, she's just kind of walking around the jungle, never being challenged. And as this game goes later and later, obviously you have the Vayne Lulu scaling, but Kindred is right up there in terms of heavy scaling. And you know who's also scaling? The Emperor of Shurima himself in the mid lane. And you know what Vayne hates more than anything? A short range or a mid range mage that makes it so she can never walk in the fight, or she is getting thrown back into her team or just getting chunked left and right. And so this gets scary.
Here around the Dragon Gungeon, we see Hot S'mores time in the back of Cute Raichu pretty darn well here. No wards around the Dragon Pit, and that's going to be the first objective going the way of Degenerates Reformed. After losing out a little bit in the top lane, they potentially buy themselves some time down the line. If No Fear Wolves keep up pressing the advantage, well, the Soul isn't going to be coming their way anytime soon. Well, Degenerates Reformed, they get a little early investment.
He's going for it.
Into a win con. Skiz, he's not used to the top lane, you know? He's not used to this orange champion, this engaged style of play. We'll give Skiz some time for the rest of the season, but no worries. Look at the CS mid lane, though. Cute Raichu, we might see him be a little more impactful this season. He's out of the top lane. Maybe putting him in the carry boots, Gungeon, putting him in the driver's seat would be the way No Fear Wolves elevate their gameplay to maybe push for finals.
And I mean, we all know that the top lane is that hyperbolic time chamber where you learn all of the mechanics and the Ornn mechanics. We are going to see a gank. They might try to force it, but the TP is ready.
He brung in the Storm. Hot S'mores looking for the damage, but this is Skiz. This is Cute Raichu. This are the No Fear Wolves coming in for the engage in the bot lane. Epic fail guys jumping in. That's Hot S'mores getting taken down. Fox Zero gets taken down next. Flute Loops just looking for the rest of the team. He's out of there. 2 kills go the way of Wolves in the bot lane.
And the word for that play bot lane is synergy, synergy, synergy. These guys have played with each other all the time, and you could see immediately the second that gank felt a little bit overforced from the side of Degenerates Reformed, immediately the double TP came through and the punish happened. And this goes from bad to worse because now the wave gets crashed into the Vayne Lulu's tower. Oh, and the gank mid.
Peekaboo going to use the Lamb's Respite. Crimvale going to buy himself some time staying alive. Peekaboo trying to flash away, but now it's Cute Raichu. He used his flash earlier, Gungeon. There's nowhere left to run. Hot S'mores looking to take a big old bite out of the bird. He wants some chicken, but Crimvale is going to cook that one up for him and get a very important kill on the Victor.
And Crimvale had just great positioning of that Victor gravity field, catching both of the members and was able to run back in to the Kindred ulti to make sure he stayed alive. Great outplay in the 1v2 turned by Hot S'mores, and just great play to kind of hold down because, again, a lot of times, especially when you're kind of week one, you're kind of trying to feel out how the league is, how the power level of all of these players are. Even though scrims can kind of give you that, a lot of that does end up coming from just playing the stream games and the match games. So they're trying to get the power level, and it feels like sometimes the match can get away from you when you're like, oh no, bot lane turned, oh no, top lane solo kill. So it's really important that you get something on the board, and great play by Crimvale to kind of hold the line and say, guys, we're fine, just relax, take a breath, and we're still in this. We're still a good team. Don't be afraid, don't get intimidated. And great play.
Before we hit the 10-minute mark, Gungeon, it is only a 1.4k gold lead for the side of No Fear Wolves. A lot of gold in the pocket of Epic Fail Guy, who has a small lead, and even Skiz doing a solid job in the top lane. Didn't recognize that going under turret would have a little issue with his Sunfire Cape, but when the Ornn gets ahead, Gungeon, that spells a really troublesome late game for the side of Degenerates Reformed. It's going to be on Fox Zero, I think, to try to handle Skiz later on.
Ooh, a little bit of combat around the top side right now. It looks like Peekaboo was trying to position around the Rift Herald, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of fighting. The Ornn ulti is ready.
Skiz not pulling the trigger just yet, doesn't want to use that call too quickly, has the phone ready in the back pocket, but we see Degenerates Reformed are just going to back off. And look at the lane awareness from Epic Fail Guy. He's not going to be caught out in the 1v2. He's just going to back off, able to keep his sums, and now Jushbox right back in lane for him.
And it does look bad for the side of No Fear Wolves, as they were the ones to try and initiate that Rift Herald play. But for the side of No Fear Wolves, with this scaling Ornn, with this scaling Kindred, they're fine if inaction is completely fine for the side of No Fear Wolves. That is exactly what they want. Obviously, you have the Vayne Lulu comp scaling, but you have so much more kind of hyper scaling from the side of No Fear Wolves. These two hyper scaling team comps are kind of going match blow for blow against each other, but it feels like No Fear Wolves is kind of coming out in the end just because of how much they've kind of dipped into that hyper scaling idea. Mid lane.
Peekaboo getting real low, but he's trying to take down Crimville. The Lamster Spike gonna buy him some time. Cute Raichu taken out of the fight. The Wild Growth onto Crimville. He's trying to survive, but Peekaboo picking up the kill. He finds his mark. Flute Loop's able to trade that back, but it's a support for support trade as Jushbox lowers the anchor and makes that a 2-for-1 for the side of No Fear Wolves.
And great roam by Flute Loops there to make sure he could try and respond, because again, they had already targeted out Crimville and he didn't have the flash already. Cute Raichu.
Gonna try to back off. That's the Emperor's Divide coming through. He's staying alive. The storm coming down. Hot S'more's gonna try to get out of here. Epic Fail Guy, Cute Raichu, they turn their attention right back over to the Dragon. Hot S'more's no flash, but he's still got Smite up. He's coming in. He's gonna grab the steal. Gets not backed up. That's a deal. Epic Fail Guy using the Buster Shot a little too late, Gunjin. That's now 2 Dragons over the side of Degenerates Reformed.
And Degenerates Reform are kind of relying on this Dragon win condition, as we are going to be transitioning into that Mountain Drake map. Tragedy for the side of No Fear Wolves there. It felt like, again, if you can get it to that 1-1 mark, the Dragon Soul will come up around that 30-minute mark. At that point, you have time to get all of your champions to scale. But with that 24-minute mark, if they end up giving up this next Dragon, they could be in a position where they have to fight in that mid game. And again, Volibear is still strong. He is still effective, even though he is getting kind of gapped in the jungle by the side of Peekaboo. And the thing I wanted to mention was that Peekaboo is sitting on that 3-4 mark. He has hit the Kindred 4 mark power spike, where he does end up getting that range, does end up getting the damage. So he is in a really strong position. But for the side of Degenerates Reform, if they have anything they want to hold on to, anything that they want to say, guys, we have a chance, it's going to be that early Dragon Soul. And that Dragon Soul is going to be spawning if everything goes to plan at that 25-minute mark.
This is going to be the Rift Herald dropped up on the top side of the map. Adderall, no teleport available. That's gold going into the pocket of the Kindred you were talking about, Gunjin, and Skiz now scaling very, very nicely.
Gives is scaling just into that mark, and you want to, the closer you get to that level 14 mark, teleport
coming in. We got to fight around Rift Herald pit. Hot S'more's going to try to flash over. Still gets caught by the knockup. Look at the flame breath. Look at Skiz. What is going on with that Ornn? Riot, hello? Clip that one.
I felt like Hot S'more's avoided the knockup, but he just got knocked up regardless. Ornn said no, sir, and the Azir ult, perfect.
Skiz
delivery.
is all over the map. What an alley-oop there from Cute Raichu, tossing up Crimville right into the knockup of Skiz. This is the way No Fear Wolves wanted to start this season.
And you can just see kind of the synergy of this team, and the big player that we're talking about is Skiz, Epic Fail Guy.
More fighting going on, but the hook is on to Flute Loops. Fox Zero is dealing the damage, and that's going to be Epic Fail Guy going down to the bot lane. Here's Cute Raichu. He may be on half health, but he's still looking to dish out the damage. It's the final hour for Fox Zero. He gets taken down. The Call of the Forge God, Skiz, top lane, mid lane, now bot lane, making plays happen. No Fear Wolves with a 3,000 gold lead.
Where in the world is this Ornn? It feels like he's everywhere on the map, making plays all around the map. Who said that an Ornn in the early game can't be impactful? Skiz said no, sir, Bob, making all the plays. And you can see the Vayne Lulu lane. It was kind of coming together. It was like Epic Fail Guy Jushbox tried to get the engage, and Vayne Lulu said, you thought it was sweet down here. They turned the play around, but it doesn't matter because
Peekaboo's this time, the one getting scared. Lamb's Respite's going to come out. Fear Beyond Death is available. He's going to use it now, straight into the belly. Adderall gets his second kill of the game.
And Adderall is just tired of being left in the top lane island. He says, guys, I want to make plays around the map too. Ends up picking up the Peekaboo kill right there. And it's important because you need to try and get this Kindred off the map, because right now she has hit her power point. She is super strong with that Kraken Slayer build. You can see he's kind of just going for it just to burst out a lot of these tanks like the Urgot and the Volibear. And the plans for both of these teams are coming together, but there is a slight lead for the side of No Fear Wolves with that 2K gold lead. And you can see, again, I want to talk about, it's the team play that is kind of making the difference mid lane.
The hook connects. Gunjin not going to be able to get some time to talk. Crimville, you blink and you might have missed it. Jushbox with a huge aggressive play that No Fear Wolves were looking to bring into Season 3.
And it feels like it's not like Degenerates Wolves Reformed is getting outplayed in terms of solo plays. They're not getting outplayed like that. But the team play for the side of No Fear Wolves is so strong. It feels like these guys are already in week 6 ready for the playoffs. But this is week 1. And they're just catching them right off guard because double TPs, ports into the bot lane, Ornn walking all around the map. And now as this Mountain Dragon is going to be spawning soon, they are getting ready for this objective. And this is going to be a full-on 5v5 team fight.
Peekaboo's going to have to be careful. He doesn't get caught out once again. Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. The fight's going to start now as Adderall, the first one to engage, but the storm is being brought down onto Epic Fail Guys, trying to run away. Hot S'mores, now the one retreating. The initial engage is over. We'll have to look for the re-engage coming through. The teams are going to back off, re-catch their breath. Skiz looking for the moment, looking for the right opportunity. Use the call of the Forge God earlier. Lamb's Respite, not available. Hook and a miss, but the knockup connects onto Adderall. Trying to back off. Fox Zero, Crimville, still healthy. The carries for Degenerates are dishing out the damage. Skiz is shut down. The hook onto Fox Zero, he's still alive. Q Raichu with the huge Emperor's Divide, trying to make a big play happen in this fight. Epic Fail Guy, he gets stunned up. Crimville gets a double kill. Q Raichu, the only member left, trading all over the map. Q Raichu trying to finish off his mid lane opponent, but it's stuck between two members of Degenerates of Form. They get the ace, and Gunjin, they're going to be getting soul point on the Mountain Soul.
What a team fight from the side of Degenerates Reform. It looked good, but there was no solid engage, and all of the engage tools that felt like were used, the Nautilus ulti, the Ornn ulti, nothing was there. Whereas the Vayne is dealing damage after damage, hit after hit, and it was so close because Cute Raichu made such a big, impactful team play with that massive Shurima shuffle. But for the side of Degenerates Reform, they're holding on, and now it feels like the momentum of the game is turned because they're sitting on soul point. It's going to be at 23 minutes. We're going to be fighting for that Mountain Soul. And if No Fear Wolves don't execute perfectly, we're going to have a Mountain Soul on the side of Degenerates Reform. And this Vayne Lulu comp really feels like it's getting close to that point where nobody's going to be able to deal with it.
It's going to rely on the picks coming through. The communication that we've highlighted was pretty strong throughout that early game for the side of No Fear Wolves, but the Degenerates Reformed squad is holding their own against one of the stalwarts. Gunjin, I gotta say, I think we're in for a really exciting and interesting mid-league season.
Yeah, if this is the talent that we're having already, this is kind of week 1 performances, and they're kind of getting blitzed by the team play, but you can see the kind of talent that is on the Degenerates Reform's roster. It's there. Play mid lane, but doesn't look like anything, but Skiz's gonna go for the solo kill?
We've got fights all over the Rift. Adderall going to be able to back off, but now it's Flute Loops. He's going to try to save himself, but he can't grow big enough. The health bar gets shrunk down to 0. Adderall blows the Urgot ultimate. No Fear Wolves now truly have nothing to fear. They're going to be trying to knock down the door, but we get a pause, and I get to take a deep breath.
Poof. Let's calm down. Gold lead is pretty close, but No Fear Wolves do have that 2.2k gold advantage. The AD carries have their items. The supports are making plays all around the map, even if sometimes it's not the best plays with Flute Loops right there. But we are ready to get back in. It looks like both of the teams are ready, and we're going to be breaking down a very exciting mid to late game. And again, you have 3 games of this. This is just game 1. You got game 2 and 3. If this is what they're doing in game number 1, I cannot wait for game 2.
Adderall does have teleport available. That's going to be a flash. Very important. A good hook there from Jushbox. That's going to be the call of the Forge God. Crimvale wish he has the flash still, but he's going to get taken down. Skiz with a big kill. The Chaos Storm going to hurt the Wolves a little bit, but they're grouped up as 5. That's a huge pick onto the Victor. Gunjin, Baron just now about to spawn, but we see the recalls coming through.
Yeah, Baron could be the play, as they do have the Azir, who has just immense Baron damage, but they just don't feel like they want to kind of risk that. Oh, Azir!
Cute Raichu, he felt safe under his turret, Gunjin, but there's no safe spot for the Reformed squad. They're here. They are ready for this season of Mid-League, and right now with the Vayne Lulu together, they're making their way over to Baron.
And they can just try and force this Baron down, at least force a TP from the side of No Fear Wolves. They do have some wards to spot out that it isn't going to be a Baron rush for the side of Degenerates Reform, but again, just a tragic misplay from the side of Cute Raichu. He thought he was safe, but he was nowhere close to that. But they're going to have to face check, it looks like.
Cute Raichu on the Azir does have teleport. He's going to use it immediately in the mid lane, and the Degenerates just don't feel comfortable enough to look for the big objective. They have Mountain Soul potentially spawning in 2 minutes, Gunjin. They don't want to pull the trigger on a big fight just yet.
Yeah, they don't want to risk it, and they do end up getting the cooldown they wanted to force, which was Cute Raichu's TP there. So all in all, a win for the side of Degenerates Reform. Kind of, again, both of these teams are kind of punching back and forth and back and forth. It never feels like one team is just kind of dictating the plays and one is just letting it happen. It feels like both teams are very proactive in this game. Breakpoints that I want to mention. Right now, the Kindred is sitting on 5 marks. She was sitting on 4 marks at about 12 minutes, and it felt like Peekaboo's kind of just leveled out at this point. It felt like Kindred was kind of on this like meteoric rise where we were maybe going to see the 10 stack Kindred, but a lot of these team fights are getting super, super close, and a lot of these team fights are super hard for the Kindred because she just doesn't have the range at the moment, and Crimvale is making sure that anytime Kindred steps up, she's eating a Death Laser, she's eating some damage, so she's not always healthy enough to try to frontline in these team fights, which is kind of what you want to do as this Kindred pick, kind of dashing in and out. And so in terms of just team comps, I feel like Degenerates Reform have a really good answer to the Kindred in these team fights. The big problem is that in terms of just the coordination, and something that I mentioned over and over again in this game, it feels like No Fear Wolves are just a step ahead. And if you're a step ahead in those late game scenarios, that means you lose Baron, that means you lose Elder, and that means you can lose the game.
Right now, No Fear Wolves positioned around the Dragon objective. They have item advantages in top, in jungle, in mid. They're ready to look for this fight. Jushbox looking at you on the Nautilus, the new potential star here for the No Fear Wolves. He's walking up. He's feeling confident. Looks like Degenerates, they maybe want to look for a Baron trade here. This is where things get interesting, Gunjin.
And this is the best thing about having this many dragons early on. For the side of No Fear Wolves, you're just getting one mountain dragon. For the side of, oh, engage.
Call the Forge God coming in. Adderall with a teleport, but Crimvale, the health bar is getting real low. Wild Growth going to try to save him, but you can't stop the inevitable. Here comes Adderall looking for a potential engage. No Fear Wolves grouped up really nicely. The Storm is going to be brought in, but the Lamp's Respite is keeping the Wolves safe. They're making the fight happen. Peekaboo has a double kill. Shut down onto Hot S'mores. No Fear Wolves get the clean ace to take over the game.
And when it came down to those incredibly clutch game deciding scenarios, you could see this is why No Fear Wolves is considered to be one of those top 3 teams in the XLNC mid-league in the summer. They have the history. They've played in these scenarios before, and in that situation, Fox Zero was not grouped up with his team. Crimvale, at that point, did not have his flash up, I believe, and got pretty much CC locked. At that fight, they end up losing the Baron. They end up losing this Dragon timer, and now No Fear Wolves gets a ton of gold. Gets to kind of go back to shop, regroup, get all of their items, and now force down with this Baron engage. And we can see how just aggressive they are at pulling that trigger. Skiz is just looking for these air engages left and right. If Degenerates Reform make one more misstep, this game is completely over.
The gold lead has exploded from 3,000 to now 7,000, and the Baron power play begins. Skiz a level up on Adderall on this. Orin is an absolute unit in the top lane. Going to be hard to manage, but he's looking to group up with the team. No 1-4 action coming through just yet. Skiz going to be upgrading some items. I believe that's going to be the Gale Force upgraded for Epic Fail Guy. The carries are set. Azir's on 2 items. Epic Fail Guy close to 3 items. Things are looking real good. Gunjin, what really can Degenerates kind of do to come back in this game, you think?
They do have some sort of wave clear. The Victor does provide really solid wave clear at this moment. They need to just hold on. They need to get to this Vayne 3-item mark. They need to get Victor to that 3-item mark. And at that point, there's a chance that you can hold on. Because again, in these team fights, if they don't get instantly burst, if the Ornn and the Nautilus can't instantly force the engage on, the amount of counter engage and the amount of like turn that Degenerates Reformed have with this Lulu speed up onto the Vayne, the Victor kind of playing all of these ranges, they have those team fights still. And again, there is no soul timer. For the side of No Fear Wolves, they still have to get 3 more dragons to even get to the Elder Dragon mark. So there's no inevitable kind of late game ending buff. So for the side of No Fear Wolves, with this Baron, you need to take at least 1 inhib. You need to break into that line and kind of have that pressure point. But for the side of Degenerates Reform, if you can hold and give up just 1, that's kind of like that break point where you're like, okay, we just gave up 1 inhib, that's completely fine. That's okay with us. But they need to make sure they don't get cut out here.
Peekaboo and Jushbox looking for the hook, looking for some sort of pick. They got quite a minion wave. 2 cannons, Gunjin, grouping up in the top lane. Cute Raichu not placing the Emperor's turret just yet, but he might consider it here.
And if you're the side of Degenerates Reform, the name of the game is stall, hold the line, hold the line. If you've heard that phrase before, this is what Degenerates Reform need to be repeating in their mind. They just need to hold the game because, again, if they end up losing 1 inhibitor turret or 1 inhibitor, then all that gold gets funneled into the Vayne, and it kind of makes Vayne even hyperscale even faster. So it's kind of this like weird, like this weird situation where No Fear Wolves obviously want to break into that base, but if you only break 1 inhibitor, then you don't have enough space to try and force down any of the other situations. So it feels like this Baron, obviously it was a big pickup for them, but it's going to end up kind of doing nothing besides just grow that gold lead. It obviously did end up growing to that 7k mark, but now we need to see what they do with it.
I want to point out, Gunjin, we talked about before how No Fear Wolves last season with all-pro second team ADC Epic Fail Guy would try to get him to the 30-minute mark without being too far behind. Well, now he's on an entire item advantage up on Fox Zero. He's got to be feeling pretty good. He's got 2 levels up on Hot S'mores' Volibear. He's got a level up on Crimvale on the Victor. I feel like No Fear Wolves, they couldn't have planned this a little bit better. That's going to be Flute Loops, the one getting caught out. The Wild Growth onto the Lulu. A minute before Dragon. It's a big cooldown gone.
Big cooldown gone, and there's just not vision in that bot side jungle. No Fear Wolves have complete control of a lot of these jungle entrances. If you can see, there's just no wards outside of their base for the side of Degenerates Reform, besides that like top lane Tribush ward that's pretty much giving you no information besides, hey, they're not death bushing us up there, so we're kind of fine on that. But besides that, it just feels like the map is completely dark, and for the side of Degenerates Reform, again, you can try and contest this dragon, but if you're this, I think the safer play is to just hold the line. Just wait on at least the 3rd item for the side of Crimvale and Fox Zero, and you can just kind of hold the line because there's nothing that they can do to kind of force that engage until the Baron comes up in a minute. That's when you can try and look to see if you can get a fight. But mid lane,
Peekaboo going in. He's got the damage. He's got the kill. Peekaboo is unstoppable. Crimvale burning flash in a 40-second death timer with Epic Fail Guy firing on all cylinders on this Tristana pick. That's going to be the inhibitor turret, and another hook connecting. That's onto Fox Zero. That's what they were looking for. That's the pick onto the Vayne. Skiz now popping off in the back line. The Lambs Respite keeping everyone safe. The Emperor's Divide combination. This is the No Fear Wolves taking over the game. The ace coming through. Style S points for Epic Fail Guy as another clean clean ace might secure the game.
That's going to be it for the side of No Fear Wolves. 2 crucial hooks from Joshbox to kind of just end the game right there. And at 29 minutes and 30 seconds, No Fear Wolves take game number 1 versus Degenerates Reform, showing that team play is really what matters. They are a real threat in XLNC Mid-League Summer.
Wow, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Block 3 series, not a best of 3. We're getting 3 games of League of Legends action on the Rift, guaranteed. Each win counts as a point for the teams in terms of the standings. So No Fear Wolves picking up an early dub, starting off the season exactly how they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly how they wanted to. They want to be that top 3. They want to be in that upper echelon with teams like CB, Rush, and Fever. Teams that we've mentioned kind of want to take that crown away now that Glaive Esports is gone. And they've kind of put their stamp on it. Obviously, in terms of laning, they were laning pretty well. Skiz had that solo kill, but it was the team play that really broke it open. And to break all of that down, we're going to send it back to Icarus and Cam to break down that great game number 1. Take it away, guys.